We are sitting here with Gerryhatrick.
Hi, NamibiaCam.
So Gerryhatrick is one of our moderators here on NamibiaCam on our channel, and he's just arrived back from a tour through Namibia. It's been a 3-week tour. Was it long enough for you?
I could do it again, completely set off again today on a 3-week tour, other than missing my family and friends, but the experience was so different. Every day was different, a new experience, and even if it was an animal or a site I'd seen before, it was slightly different, so it gave me a new perspective. And in the 3 weeks, I've learned so much. You know, as a moderator, I have a certain amount of information and knowledge, but that I continually learn. But to actually see them in things in real life, and it gives you another perspective of, you know, what you're viewing, and it's just been tremendous.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, and I see you actually look relaxed, and so it wasn't a stressful drive through Namibia. It was a very easy drive. And
no, not at all. I mean, there are lots of tarmac roads to start with when I first arrived to get to the Kalahari. After that, there were gravel tracks, but I soon got used to them. And by the second week, I had confidence enough to go on really rough tracks in the Seeking Adventure. You know, I had a 4x4, and it worked perfectly for me without a doubt, you know, and I enjoyed some of the nice bumpy roads, but as long as you take it easy and take the advice that I was given when I picked the vehicle up, no problem whatsoever.
Oh, that is nice. Yes, Gerryhatrick actually had one of the vehicles from Namibia to go. He rented it for his trip throughout Namibia, and as you heard, he enjoyed it quite a lot. Gerryhatrick, let's go from the beginning, from the start, basically, how you became a moderator, just in short, and what idea or what brought you to come to Namibia, to come visit Namibia?
I started to watch YouTube for the first time about 2.5 years ago when the volcano La Palma in the Canaries was exploding, because I have an interest in volcanoes. And after watching that for a few days, somebody mentioned NamibiaCam. So I thought, what's NamibiaCam? I know where Namibia is. Okay. So I had a look and had another look, and then the next day had a longer look, and become addicted to watching so often that it was virtually every day to start with. And then I noticed that there was a chat. I wasn't in the chat at first, but then thought, why not, you know, just say hello. And so I started to chat a little. I got to know a little bit more, and occasionally when the moderators were busy and it was a question that I'd already knew because I'd learnt it from other chatters or moderators, I began to answer the questions for the chatters. And next thing I know, that I was contacted and asked if I would be interested in being a moderator, and I said, yes, please, because it had given me over the months a renewed I've always had an interest in animals and nature and ecosystems. I did geography and geology at university, but sort of including weather and soil systems and things like that. And to be able to sort of actually have a hobby with YouTube and NamibiaCam gave me some real purpose. I mean, I retired 11 years ago, so I have some spare time. I work part-time, but from home now. But it really gave me a sparkle, something completely different, and to be able to help the chatters and the viewers to try and sort of envisage what they want to know and when they want to know it, not flood them with information, but be ready to answer the questions. And if I don't know the answer, put it open to other moderators or chatters. If they don't, then I would say, I will find out, come back to me. I'll find out from really good sources on the internet, not just the usual ones, which I won't mention, that are sometimes a little wrong. And it was a progression of building up that knowledge, and in 2 days' time, it will be my 2nd anniversary, May the 31st, of being a moderator. And it's just been really good. We've established really good relationship with the other moderators and some fantastic relationships with an awful lot of the chatters. Obviously, the people who choose not to chat, but they're there, and we represent them all, and we try to sort of provide a friendly, informative, safe chat for them all to enjoy the beautiful, beautiful sights of Namibia, its animals, its birds, its nature, and everything.
I recall when the first night when we basically went with you to the camera at Kalahari Cam, with you standing next to that camera, I saw there was a lot of like not only passion, but the feeling in yourself for being actually standing there. A couple of times you asked me to just pinch you whether you're really in Namibia.
It's unreal, because when I decided that it's something I really wanted to do, not just sort of be a moderator and sort of say the information that I had, or keep the channel safe. I wanted to really experience everything, so I could say, because some of the chatters sometimes say, "Are you all Namibian?" And so, no, none of us are Namibian, except some in the background, and NamibiaCam's Namibian, but we're all around the world to cover all the time zones. But I just thought, but if I could actually just experience everything in real life, that would give me so much more perspective, and to be able to sort of speak out of experience rather than just speak out of what I've learned. And that's why I came to Namibia, and why I wanted to just experience everything I could. Every moment was precious, from morning to night. By the time nighttime came, I slept like a baby every night, because I was so tired of getting up early in the morning by choice, not staying in the room at all, just sort of going walking, going out on my own if there wasn't an official game drive that day, and trying to send pictures back on Facebook for the viewers and the moderators, chatters to see, and to share with them what I was seeing and what I was doing over here in Namibia.
Your time here, from leaving basically Windhoek, our capital here, going down to the Kalahari Park, seeing that, and then you also went down to the Fish River Canyon.
Yeah.
The roads and the people, how did you experience that? How was your overall daily experiences?
Well, the overall daily experience obviously started early each morning that I was traveling, because I wanted to get there as soon as I could. So it was a quick breakfast, get into the car, get on my route, and just be amazed at the vastness of Namibia. You could get in your car at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, and not pass a car for an hour, which is good when you're on gravel, because then you don't get the trailing sand and the dust coming up. Yeah. But the worst still was when they were coming the other way. But you soon learn to sort of, it's like driving in fog, you sort of concentrate on what's ahead, make sure you stay in line and be prepared. Everybody has their lights on. So the driving was no problem. I'm an experienced driver through my work in the UK, and I love driving, so it was good. And then whenever I got to the lodges, whether it be Fish River Canyon, Kalahari, I was just amazed at the friendliness straight away of everybody. Just so welcoming, and it was a genuine welcome. I'm experienced enough to know when they're paid to be nice, when it's part of their duty. But they were smiles. You could see they were happy in their jobs. They were happy that I was arriving there as a tourist, and to share their country and what they had to offer. And it was wonderfully friendly, wonderful experience when you actually saw anybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Gerry. Yeah, and on these lodges in South, you basically stayed at the Gondwana lodges.
Yes.
Which was nice. So then you had, seeing the canyon, which is the world's second biggest canyon. How was that experience for you?
Absolutely breathtaking. I've never been to the Grand Canyon in America. My wife has. But to actually see it, I mean, before I came to Namibia, I've looked at lots of pictures and videos, and this is what I was saying before. You can get a perspective from videos, you can get a perspective from photographs, but when you're actually stood there, and you can turn your own head rather than turning the camera and think, oh my goodness, this is vast. You can appreciate the depth of the valley. And as I say, my background was in geography and geology, so it was very interesting to me, you know, to learn on the formation of the canyon in such a dry climate, you know. So it was really, really good from that point of view, spectacular. And I didn't expect to see so many animals. I still saw lots of animals, and I did a walk with the guide for about 3 miles. And we came face to face with a jackal of just about 5 meters away from us, and we just stared at each other, black-backed jackal. It just stopped, stared at us. We stopped and didn't talk. And then it moved a little, just a few meters, and then it stopped and stared again. And I just thought, how can you describe this? And then it just toddled off and then kept turning around, having a look at us. And then we continued, and then suddenly saw 2 ears, and it was a duiker. And it was lying down, and it just watched us.
Well,
It was as if what they want disturbing my sleep, because it was only just getting light at that time. It was very early in the morning, but experiences like that sort of were very special.
Yeah, it is. It's different than watching, you know, the whole day on the television. And
Oh,
things.
yeah. I don't. Yeah.
And then you had that. Basically, you went to the wild horses in Aus in that area. Also more vastness in that side. And then you slowly moved up towards the NC, which is our NamibiaCam, the one where we started the channel with. And yeah, that's where I met up with you then again.
Yes.
And we went to the waterhole. And how was that first day at that waterhole for you?
Absolutely amazing. Obviously, I see it all the time with it being a fixed camera at NC. You only see the forward, and then obviously you've put the 360 views on, which are great for seeing the seasonal changes when there are seasonal changes, like 2 years ago. Not much with the dry seasons, with the wet season this year. But to put in perspective of the actual size of the waterhole, how close it is to the actual camera, to see darkwood and lightwood, and you know, sort of stretch up and see how high they were, to see how close leaning tree is, because in the camera it looks quite far away, and when the GNU that usually goes over there into the shade, it seems so far away, and the GNU just plods along, and then it lies down. But I felt it's only about 45, 50 meters, you know, not far at all. And then seeing the reserve tank at the back and the building, they're much further back than I thought. But of course, the camera is so sensitive that sometimes we can hear people if they're staying at the building behind. But to see all that and just appreciate what is where, that the 360 views, don't get me wrong, are superb. But to actually be there, and then to actually, I couldn't actually empty the waterhole when we cleaned it, but it was nice to do the brushing. And it was good that it was you that slipped and fell and got wet, and not me, because my wife would have been screaming, "Don't injure yourself."
Yeah, it was a bit slippy that day, but things like happen. And yeah, we actually, in the background, you have our live cam there where you are the moderator every morning on. And your shirt, again, is fitting towards the our oryx, which are there. It was also great having you that day, arriving with your giraffe mask, Gerryhatrick, but that's the way we know you as well as a moderator, always that little chirpy, that little fun. But that's what the channel is about also, you know, that we're not that serious all over, that we have these fun moments, and that is, you've experienced it also in life, that is why the air around it's completely different. It's that calmness we bring in Namibia, and this vastness that makes us happy. The air is fresh.
Yeah, fresh, and having the wonderful sand between your toes when you take your shoes off, and that the morning we're out at the Kalahari and with the red sand and the coolness of the sand compared to during the day, it was just amazing. But the first part of the trip was fantastic because I was on the camera. It was something I was looking forward to. I'm not very good at public speaking, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to be part of it. Carrie had been there before. obviously we did that little tribute to Abdullah, which was very nice because he was one of our very exceptionally friendly and informative chatters. And yeah, and then Namibia at NC was, I do mainly work on NC, so it was my speciality, but I've learned so much about being, I mean, we'll probably talk about in minutes, in the Etosha Park for 4 or 5 days that I've recently been. I'm having to learn more about the rhinos. I'm having to learn more about the elephants, and you know, I saw the other day that we had a leopard there as well, which was a fantastic sighting. I didn't see it live. I was probably just getting up for the morning drive, but yeah, it's superb.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also went then past the coast, and you saw the salt pans, I believe, where we also get the salt licks from.
Yeah.
You spent 2 days there, and then you went slowly up towards the north, Palmbach area, and you also went to visit at the Epupa waterfalls.
Yes.
Which seldom people go up, but that's one of the also very nice places in Namibia we have.
Yes, absolutely fantastic. It's right in the north of Namibia. Took a bit of driving, but very, I mean, all driving in Namibia is exceptionally interesting because the topography, the hills, the landscape changes so much. You know, I was going through wonderful mountain passes, going through dry riverbeds, seeing all sorts of birds and animals, which was great. And then you get completely different to this place of Epupa Falls, and there is so much water. One side of the river's Angola, and this side, which I was obviously on, is Namibia. And the sheer force of those falls and the vastness, and it's not just one waterfall, it's many waterfalls that are going down, and the noise, and just it was overpowering, to be honest. And my room was right next to the waterfalls, so all night I could hear it. And it was a pleasure. He rocked me to sleep. I mean, as I say, each night I was tired through all the journeying that I was doing. And once I got to wherever I was going on all the sort of game drives and safaris that I could. And when I wasn't doing that, I was walking and exploring and going outside the actual places. And like there was a lot of Himba people, and I was sort of going and seeing what they were doing. And but yeah, Epupa, a magical change from the rest of Namibia. I'm not saying better, but a very different.
Yeah.
And when I was actually moving from there, I chose to drive along the river rather than come back inland that NamibiaCam yourself had advised me to do and go on the gravel track. I just wanted to experience a little bit more off the road driving. By then, unbeknown to me, that you'd put some reduce the air in my tyres on my Jeep, which I thought was just my driving had got better. So, you know, unfortunately, it wasn't that. It was the fact that you'd adjusted my air pressure in my tyres. But I took it easy. I think it was 85 kilometres I went along the river, which took me about 3 hours, I believe. So it's not very fast. 85 kilometres is about 50 miles, 52 miles for those that use miles. And I must say that I passed literally hundreds of dry riverbeds, some which were a little bit challenging to get across. Some had a little bit of water and very high banks to get off. But by then I was quite used to the 4x4 and driving in sand and gravel, and just really enjoyed it, and seeing so many of the local Himba native peoples was so friendly, waving, and seeing the conditions where they live. But I don't think I've ever seen as many goats in my life. Every 100 yards there was a herd of goats. Quite often they had herdsmen with them, and but sometimes there was like maybe 300-400 in the herd, sometimes less, maybe 50 or 60. But then you had to stop because they just walk straight in front of you, and you sort of stop and let them go by, and they don't hurry. They take their time, and later on, the same with cattle, and there's sort of cows there, and they've got massive, great horns, and you think, oh my goodness, are they going to charge the car? So I didn't want to barge them out the way, so I just let them walk gently out the way, and so that 3 hour, 80 odd kilometer off road was fantastic, and I know you were worried, thinking that I'd gone the wrong way, but I assure you, I did it all on purpose, and I gave myself time. It's the whole thing about Namibian driving with the road and the terrain. As long as you take your time and you concentrate at all times, you know, because there are potholes, there are corrugated parts, and but you know, it's part of the adventure.
Yeah, without adventure, you wouldn't be to Namibia.
No,
that's all part of it. The wildlife, these areas, the driving. It all makes for you to have a story to tell.
Oh, yes.
And it's similar to the logo or to the saying from Gondwana Collection. They've got to have a story to tell. And obviously after 3 weeks, I think we can sit here for 3 hours and you're talking. You've got plenty of stories to tell from every day.
Oh, without a doubt. I've taken many pictures. I've got lots of videos. I'm going to put them together and do sort of an album of such... but it's what's in here, the feelings, the emotions of being amongst the animals and so close. I mean, even this morning, I was up at 5:30, and prior to travelling to Windhoek, I went on an early morning drive, and to see, as the sun was trying to come above the hills, baby rhinoceros, mothers, the male that seemed to want to charge us instead of doing anything else, but it didn't. The driver managed to drive away and then reversed, and then it lost interest in us. But just, you know, the beauty of it all, on a morning, on a night, during the day, throughout the day, everything changes. And I appreciate that from the cameras. There's a moderator, you know, sometimes there's nothing there at the waterholes for a long time, or if, for example, at Kalahari it's rained, sometimes we don't get animals for hours and hours and hours because they don't need to go to the waterhole.
True.
And it was similar when, you know, I was travelling around. You know, there weren't always animals there, but when there were, it was spectacular.
Yeah,
and a real privilege to be so close and to be in the hands of such expert guides.
Thank you for those kind words about Namibia, and and you also went through the Etosha National Park.
Yes.
And there also we have that one camp, and you stayed also close by to that camp at the Etosha Safari Lodge, I believe.
Yes.
And did those drives, but that was also fun, you say you had.
Oh, yeah, just going into the park and seeing just the vastness of the park, and to actually see the Etosha Pan. I took some photographs, and it was just like, it looked like a sea of white, and it just... the vastness. I mean, I understand you can see it from space and very easily, and just see the animals. You know, I saw a herd of gnu or blue wildebeest, and they were actually just on the fringes, and there seemed to be no vegetation, but they seemed to be so happy there, jumping about and playing, and but the spotting of the animals was great in Etosha. You know, on the third day, I actually drove on my own through Etosha. I chose, rather than to go round, I took advice from you. And that was one of the best times as well, because it was me doing it on my own. It was me finding the animals. And there came to one point where I was going along at about 30 kilometers an hour, and I saw what they call them, not molehills, the termite
hills, yeah.
I saw a termite hill, and it had been chopped by something, and I just thought, oh, I should have taken the photograph. That looked really good. So I thought, I'll turn around. So I managed to find somewhere to turn around, came back looking for the termite mound, and I thought, it must be here somewhere. And then this bull elephant came out right in front of me, across my path, and then stopped. So I drove fairly close as the safari vehicles had got, no closer, because I was on my own, and obviously I have to be careful. And the elephant then just fed on the trees right in front of me, and I thought, that termite mound has led me to this elephant. And that was a special moment to me, because It was really good, and I thought, you know, if I could just share it with somebody. So I turned around again once the elephant moved on, and a cow was coming after about 2 miles. A cow was coming the other way. So I stopped, and they stopped, and I said, there's an elephant about 2 kilometers just on the right-hand side, and it's really a bull elephant, really, really big, really good. And I said, oh, thank you. If you go and turn right where you're going, in 10 kilometers, there are 58 elephants at the waterhole. And I went, thank you. So one good turn, you know, turned in. And then I went to the waterhole, and sure enough, 58, and I count them. Blicking de Welt, where one of our cutters said, did you really count them? I said, yes, I did. I had enough time to count them. And that was just awesome. Just the sound of a big amalgamation of young, old, male, female elephants, some on the sidelines, and to get so close to them, it was just the sound that we're making, and some of the young bulls were sort of having little tusk fights and sort of showing who's boss. Just very special.
It's completely different than going to a zoo in the rest of the world. This is wildlife.
It's real wildlife. Yeah,
completely different. Yeah, and you're sitting there in your car all by your own. Special moments, those, yeah.
Yeah, but there was no danger. I didn't sense any danger because I'd learned from when we went on the game drives the position that you keep yourself in, how far away to stay, to turn your engine off, not to do anything quickly, not to make noises, and certainly not get out of the car because obviously in Etosha there are many lions, and we did come across a lot of lions. Okay. And as long as I did on my own what I would do in the safari, organised ones, then it's perfectly safe, you know, and you listen to your guide, and the first thing they say is don't get out of the vehicle. Yeah. So I would not get out of my vehicle at all, and just sat there and had time, my own time to spend watching what I wanted to watch. I mean, the safari guides are wonderful, but sometimes you want a little bit longer, and it's not fair on the rest of the people there. Sometimes you've seen enough, you know, but maybe they've just arrived in Namibia and they've seen nothing at all, whereas I've seen 16,700,000 oryx. Maybe an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So I didn't want to take as many pictures as they, but that was, you know, me giving them time as well. But I had my own time. But then the next day when I went to the King Nahali, I went on 2 safari drives, and I was lucky enough to be the only actual visitor there. So I had the guide to myself in this great big safari vehicle. And that was great because I was able to ask that many more questions rather than, you know, take my turn in asking questions, and struck a really good relationship with David's, the guide who was there for both of them, and learned what I wanted to learn, more about that area, more about the behaviour, because as I say, it's fairly new to NamibiaCam to have OC. We've not been here before. There are different animals and different environment completely, you know.
Yes, and totally.
Yeah.
It was also interesting, you know, listening to you with, you know, the way you went through and with all these guides and everything. So I think you have got more knowledge than me now after this 3-week trip here in Namibia.
I don't think so.
Well, we can make a test sometime online again once one of these mornings when you get back. Yeah. Yes, you basically today on your way back to the UK, you can take a lot of good memories along, and yeah, it was also great for having you in Namibia, and we really enjoyed you, you know, that you actually made the effort to come to Namibia.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Wonderful country, wonderful wildlife, wonderful landscapes, wonderful people, and a great hosting yourself and Gondwana collection. All of the lodges were superb. Some were breathtaking. But I honestly have not got a negative thing to say about my whole trip. I'd prepared well for mosquitoes. I never saw one, heard one, or got bit by one. I got insect repellent. I used it, but I never saw any insects other than a great big cricket about that big, which I did post online, which was outside my room, not inside my room at Palmwag. And even the heat, you know, I chose to come this time of year on your advice and on advice of Gondwana Collection advisors from the holiday point of view. So it wasn't too hot, but most days were in the 30s. And I felt comfortable in it because I wasn't rushing around and everything was air conditioned, and just so many memories that are going to live with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Were you talking about Palmbach, the little cricket there? I recall you sending me a message about an elephant in your back garden.
Yes. Yes, I literally got to my room, plonked my bag, turned around, looking down into the towards the waterhole, and there's an elephant there. You know, it's the first elephant apart from at safari parks in the United Kingdom and in France. I'd never actually physically seen an elephant. Yes, I've been to zoos, which obviously are not the same thing at all. So it was just great. But then also having a warthog on the grass right in the middle of the lodge at
Namib Desert.
Yeah, Namib Desert. And this morning and last night when I was just outside Windhoek at the Okapuka. I'm learning the language. Okapuka. They had warthogs, they had ostrich, they had some springboks in the distance. And, you know, it was just out of my room. I could see these things, you know, these wonderful animals that before I'd only seen on the screen. The screen is wonderful. We've got the screen here in front of us. And, yeah, it's wonderful. But in real life, it's different. And then from the lodge this morning, I've seen warthogs crossing my path. I've seen water bucks. I've seen springbok. I've seen lots of beautiful birds, including the fork-tailed drongos, which are really, really nice. And yeah, I've learned a lot about birds, which some of the moderators and some of the chatters are very good at. It's something that I enjoy watching birds in England and in France, where I lived sometimes, because I'm partly French. But to learn about these new birds, and it just the hornbill especially, love seeing the hornbills. The way they fly across and then into the tree across the road, and to see them's wonderful.
Great. Okay, Gerry, I think thanks very much again from our side, and also for being such a great moderator.
Thank you.
And yeah, I wish you a great flight back to the UK, and we'll probably see you online soon again, chatting there. Thanks for your visit, but last words on you.
Well, I'd just like to thank you. If you hadn't come up with NamibiaCam through Gondwana Collection, I wouldn't have been watching the channels. I wouldn't have got so much interest and passion for the channels, and never have envisaged coming to Namibia. All I knew about Namibia was that they played rugby and a bit of football, and it was a beautiful country, but I hadn't seen any of it in great detail. Now I have. It's just wonderful, and I would advise anybody who's contemplating coming to Namibia, don't hesitate. It is truly outstanding, and I'm not paid to say that. It's truly amazing, and I will treasure every moment that I've had in Namibia, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Gerryhatrick.
Thank you very much.
One last word, a goodbye in your...
I would just like to say in French, au revoir, merci, Tati Grandland, si t'es là. Bonjour et à bientôt. Je vais passer quelques jours en France, j'espère. Et puis, pour tous les visiteurs de la chaîne en France, bonjour en français. On ne peut pas parler français quand on est sur le chat, mais c'est comme ça. C'est les règlements pour tout le monde.